So, what made you want to pursue film?
So I decided to pursue film because since when I was young, movies always felt like the most wonderful way to escape and connect with other people. And I had parents who were theater majors, so I was immediately drawn to the arts through their kind of um, participation in my life. And I started with theater, and the natural progression just felt like film. And then one day I was making films for English projects and realizing that I just loved it. So I decided to continue on and make that a career path.
Cool. How long have you been working in the film industry?
I have, well, let me also, I'm going to say my name real quick. Um, Hello, my name is Dalton Snyder Smith. I've been a filmmaker for about 8 years now. I started in 2016, and it started off just working with student films and trying to make them on my own. But then it evolved to where I was working in production on union television shows, camera for commercials, and I continue to make my own films.
Speaking of your films, what projects have you worked on?
I have worked on so many projects that sometimes it does get a little hard to keep track of. So I'm going to say the kind of bigger ones that you might have heard of and try and remember them all. But in terms of television work, both as a production assistant, and camera loader, in some of them, I've worked for The Marvelous Miss Maisel for 2 years. I worked on the show Fallout a little bit. I worked on the show Evil. I worked on Godfather of Harlem. I worked on Power Book 2 Ghost. I worked on FBI, Not Most Wanted, the just straight up FBI. That one I did for 2 years as well. I've worked on Black Christmas, the United States unit. I've worked on something called Jules. I believe the name has changed, but I don't know what it changed to. I worked on Diara from Detroit, um, the kitchen, and then I've made over 15 short films in my life. I've worked on commercials and promos for Inside Out 2, for Unfrosted the movie, the coming out soon a documentary based on a very famous Broadway that I am not a show that I am not allowed to say. And I worked camera assistant for West Hampton, which is a feature film premiering in Tribeca.
Cool. So, what is the best experience you've had working in the film industry?
I want to say every experience has been the best because it's where I am most present. So when I'm there, it feels like every project's the best. But I very highly regard my time with the Marvelous Miss Maisel just because they were such an amazing team of assistant directors and actors. And I was able to do a lot of really cool things. Like work directly with some of the actors almost as like a fill-in assistant on photo unit days. I got to get experience working with hundreds of background actors at once, getting them through hair and makeup and placing them on set. And I met some of my best friends there. But I also regard my time on FBI very highly because I was able to direct photo units myself as a production assistant because I was working with the ADs so closely. And I was able to switch over to the camera team, and that's where I started my camera careers with the FBI camera team, who was so fantastic in season 4 and 5. So I was very grateful.
So, would you say there have been worse experiences when you worked in the film industry, or no?
Yes, I will be very so I will say that working in the film industry, it can be very difficult sometimes. There are some experience I would classify as, I suppose, worse. But even the worst day in the film industry to me is better than the best day in the office. But when you're working in the film industry, you're working very long hours. You're working usually 8 to 12 hours, but very often it's 14, 16. I've even hit 20 hours on some rare occasions, and that can be very stressful. Very early rising, you get home late. And if it's cold or raining, I always like to tell the story of the time I was eating a burrito standing up in the rain because I was fire watching, which meant I was guarding some gear, keeping an eye on it in the street. So I'm in the rain, in the freezing weather, standing up, no chair, in the dark, eating a burrito. So in moments like that, it's very easy to think, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this to become a filmmaker? I've had times I've cried. On set. I've had mistakes that have happened that feel like it's the end of the world. Sometimes not even involving me, but things get confusing, and sometimes you take the fall for things, you know. But at the end of the day, I have never regretted a day or a job I've done.
Um, what's your favorite part of teaching film?
My favorite part of teaching film is kind of every part of it. I know that's a silly answer, but if I describe it, um, it's really it feels almost like it's not a job. It feels I get to come and talk about filmmaking to a bunch of filmmakers, and I get to like watch their trajectory rise and grow. And when a student says they had a good time in class, or they say, hey, I've had students come up to me and say, hey, thank you so much for teaching me what this is, teaching me what a call sheet is, teaching me what room tone is. I've already used it and it's already helped me. That's a really great feeling. So that might be my favorite. But every day is just kind of fun because I get to come in and play with filmmaking gear and watch people make projects. And I just feel like I'm producing short films. It barely feels like I'm teaching, but I enjoy it a lot.
Cool, cool. Uh, so how can young filmmakers stand out in a competitive industry?
That is an excellent question. How can how okay, young filmmakers, of course, the goal is as a young filmmaker to stand out from the competition and kind of thrive in the industry. That can be very challenging to do, and that is something I am still learning. I would consider maybe not quite as young, but I would consider myself a younger filmmaker. Um, I think the best thing that a young filmmaker can do to set themselves apart from the competition is to come in with a good attitude, be willing to work with people and listen to people, and just make things on their own. It takes a while for anyone in the industry to notice you, especially if you want to be a director or a camera person. No one's going to walk up to you and say, here's a directing job, prove yourself, although we all wish that would happen. It's much more often that they're looking for people who have already made short films. So practicing your crafts, making films whenever you can, making no budget films, getting your friends together, renting gear or sourcing gear however you can, even if it does have to be just your cell phone, making consistent content, and that does two things. That one shows anyone looking for young filmmakers to mentor or to invest their time or money into that you are ambitious, determined, and that you are able to start and finish projects, which is huge in the industry. But it also helps you improve your own skills because filmmaking is like an exercise or like a musical instrument. If you're not rehearsing or working out every day, you're not going to be the best performer. You're not going to be the strongest person. Filmmaking's the same. You need to continue to make films and work on those skills so that you keep them fresh and you make them stronger and you become a better filmmaker and you submit to festivals. You just consistently keep stuff up on your social media. You show people what you're making and hope that you have that little bit of luck it takes to have your career jumpstart. And I would say also PAing on bigger films is very, everyone needs to start somewhere. People like to tease about how production assistants don't do much, but when you're good and you come in with a good attitude and you are a consistent production assistant, people notice and people mentor you. That's how I got into camera. No one gave me a camera and said, here you go. I worked for it as a production assistant, showed my work ethic, and then asked to be mentored in camera. And thankfully, I had a team that believed in me. So, to summarize that, make your own things if you want to be a director or producer or a camera person. consistently practice. And if you want to join a department in the film industry on a union set, just start as a PA.
That's cool. My final question is, what advice do you have for students who want to pursue a career in filmmaking?
Okay. So, yeah, and for building off of that, students who want to pursue a career in filmmaking should use all the connections they have while they're in school. I think it's very easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of school and just kind of phone it in for classes, hand in minimal projects. But this is kind of like your pre-interview for life. These are the connections and the people in your class are the filmmakers you're hopefully going to work with for years to come. I run into Montclair State alumni all the time. I went to Montclair State and there's like a connection there and we end up working together a lot. So taking advantage of all your connections, making as many good connections and friendships as you can, and use the gear while you have it. Um, whatever gear you have available for rental, whatever people you have in your circle, start to build that up. And don't focus so much on getting a paid job in the industry to start. Build your reel and your resume. Do what art makes you happy, and then you can worry about the paid gigs when you're out of college and really need to focus on making a living wage, and hopefully what you've built up will help jumpstart you to the next level. That's what I wish I did, is just do more than I already did.
Nice. That's all I have for you today. So thank you for letting me interview you.
Of course, thank you for being patient, and we found a good time. I hope it was helpful.
Yeah.